due respect to the airports, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin.
I walk into a building, there was a closed circuit camera showing a picture of an ET on the camera.
It was not extraterrestrial, it was extratemporal, time travelers.
People have gone down this rabbit hole many times, and they come out on the dark side in all this because they know that they'll never win.
Lies, deception, manufacturing the truth, and that's been the greatest mystery. It's like, what is the answer?
There's this secrecy over Roswell, that particular incident, that the government has never addressed.
We knew that this person was a hybrid.
They threatened the civilian population, and there were a lot of them, with death. They said, if you talk about this, we're not only going to kill you, we're going to kill your whole family.
Right. Oh, everyone's in a different spot now. Woo! Welcome to Total Disclosure. I'm Ty. I'm the host, joined by Lil Pop-Tart, and today a special little treat, joined by the guys from Dockside Media, who did Conscious Contact and then now have a new film coming out called In Plain Sight, The Intelligence Community and UFOs. Guys, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Ty, Lil Pop-Tart. Oh, now we're back to the other places.
Yep.
You get me confused. I got to raise and lower the chair. This is ridiculous. And I'm missing the, at Lil Pop-Tart. There it is. There it is. But I actually...
as we let everyone join, though, I just wanted to, get you guys introduced because I don't see you guys. I mean, I don't... do you guys interact a lot with the community on, like, Twitter and stuff? I mean, I haven't come across you, like, directly involved in, like, talking around. But some of the films that you made... the Conscious Contact one has been a secret favorite of mine. I mean, and now I'm so glad I get to have this conversation with you now, is basically what I'm getting at.
We would definitely like to communicate.
We try our best to engage on Twitter. But I don't know. We don't speak a ton, honestly, in maybe the UFO Twitter sphere. That's where we get the subjects that we go interview. I think we're more interested in letting these people share their unique experiences. And then Chris, the editor of the films, he finds the story afterwards. Like, we're really not trying to press our opinions like a whole lot into these documentaries. So that's really dope to hear that you've been loving, or that you really like Conscious Contact, Full Disclosure. Yeah. We had a lot of fun making that film.
Yeah, Conscious Contact was one of the ones that, because I had this like revigoration into, because I mainly interviewed actors and people in film, visited sets, wrote reviews for movies, with the screeners and stuff like that. So I had this revigoration, and that's when I met Pop-Tart here. And I just fucking watched everything I could watch. And, yours stuck out enough where it was ahead of the pack. And one that I, told other people to watch, up there with other ones. A lot of James Fox stuff and even, that Netflix one, which was really good, in my opinion, was a good, look back. But you guys don't necessarily, what I noticed and what I really liked about it was you don't stick to the mainstream tidbits, and you go pretty as close to the black hole as you can without being sucked in. So maybe you could talk about a little bit about going that direction and what brought you down that road.
Yeah, I can speak. So,
Alien
honestly, man, all these
hybridization.
documentaries, Conscious Contact, Full Disclosure, The Ghosts of Gettysburg, Secrets of the Sasquatch, and now In Plain Sight, The Intelligence Community and UFOs, which drops, October 18th on Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, PlayStation, and Microsoft. Like, all of these, man, it might sound corny, but it almost seems like fate, destiny, they all almost wrote themselves. Like, it started in August of 2021, at the beginning. So, a little over a year ago, Chris is like, hey, Tyler, do you want to start like making paranormal documentaries? And I was like, yeah, totally. And so we were going to do one that's local called The Seven Gates of Hell. And as I'm trying to get the property owner and like track down all this information on that to go interview, I noticed Anjali, her story, who's the former Department of Defense intelligence officer, and she was giving this press conference in front of Lincoln Memorial in D.C. on August 17th. So I'm like, Chris, dude, I feel like people are going to hear what this person has to say. They're former intelligence officer, and dude, it takes some real gumption and courage to go talk about this stuff in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Like, this is nuts. So we went and shot that, and then I really can't explain how we found these other people. Sue Walker, who goes by the @SanDioWisdom handle on Twitter. I happened to notice that I think there might have been a tweet saying that she has been in telepathic contact with the Ponte extraterrestrials in a mountain base in the Mojave, or in Albuquerque, New Mexico, there in the Sandia Mountains. And so I'm like, oh, dude. And I think there was a tweet saying that the Ponte were confirming Anjali's story about ETs in a base in the Mojave Mountain Desert. And so, reached out to Sue, asked if she wanted an interview. I think I was flying out there like 2-3 weeks later. She pushed me into Cliff from the Hootie, who was on Ancient Aliens, of Zuni Pueblo Elder.
I love that guy.
Dude, 3 months before he passed away. Like, it was crazy.
Oh, he passed?
He did. He did.
Man.
So I don't know if it's been 8 months now or whatever, but or something like that, or 7 months. But so it was just the events that have unfolded to get Chris and I here talking to you, Ty, and Lil Pop Tart. Like, you wouldn't believe them. Like, the name Conscious Contact, Full Disclosure just kind of comes from the ether, right? Maybe the Ponte sent it to me. I don't know. But I flip it to Chris. He's like, dude, yep, that sounds great. As we're filming that, I mentioned, dude, he was like, I think he said maybe something about, oh, dude, Gettysburg's not too far away from where we live. We should see about maybe doing one about that. Yeah, like, I'm like, oh, dude, the Ghost of Gettysburg. And dude, just, it's crazy. And so that's how we've been able to crank out 4 documentaries, in the past year, get them picked up for distribution by 1091 Pictures. And
you're doing great.
It's like maybe why they're different, because we're not watching a ton of other documentaries about this content, to be honest with you. So we're not really getting influence. We're following our creative and filmmaking guts and our curiosity. And, we want to make these documentaries entertaining and engaging, because we feel, stuff like iPhones and having this type of conversation right now live in front of other people and them commenting and engaging. 100 years ago, people would have said, like, what?
It's magic.
That is, that's exactly magic. It'll never happen.
Yeah,
so what happens in another 100 years? Who knows?
Definitely.
We're happy to destigmatize this and generate momentum.
And that's the thing. So that's what I'm setting out for, is destigmatization. Our audience on YouTube hasn't fully grasped the idea of an abrupt content change, because this just happened like within months. I just stopped doing things about news and movies, and I've been obsessed, like to the point obsessed. I don't want to go into how far, but I'm full throttle at this point. One thing I do want to bring up is Anjali. Lots of weird stuff with her. Because actually, it's funny. I just saw a tweet where she's at that conference in New York this week, and so since her story's kind of developed, would you still include that in the documentary, or would you have taken it out? It's a hard call.
That's a great question. What happened was we ripped through. Dude, we had this documentary on August 17th. We said, yo, let's go get this Anjali press conference. August 16th, the day before, I'm like, Chris, we need a company name so I can get pictures while we're there and, build this brand. I'm like, yo, what about Dockside Media? I named him, gave him some others, and he's like, dude, yep, Dockside Media, let's do it. And for her, we had the doc done and all those interviews shot. It was completely done, polished by November. And so there was no expedition yet scheduled until like 2023, January. And so it would have made a great documentary then, right? While that ball's rolling. Now, I don't know. She's still engaging with the UFO community despite the hate. So I'm of the opinion it's like, hey, if somebody truly believes that they've had an experience, you know what? If I had walked in their shoes and had their experience, I'd probably think and talk a lot like them too. So who am I to be like just hating on them? For everybody that we've interviewed in all our documentaries, all have to us appeared very genuine in that they believe that they have had these experiences. And so, Anjali, I guess we would probably still include it because I think at the end of the day, the truth from a liar is still the truth. So say she's making this stuff up. There's enough people talking about telepathy and conscious content, and we know about quantum entanglement. And as more we harness that, like, dude, maybe these the possibility of thought transfer and sending messages, etc., to somebody, like Chris is always the first to say, that's probably way more efficient than typing on the keyboard, writing all these little letters, like talking verbally, like boop, just drop it to them, man. They got the data.
That's where Pop-Tart comes from, the whole CE5 contact. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
First, though, just for myself and the viewers too, could you give a little bit of context about this Angelique person? I've never heard of her or anything.
Who wants to go?
This. I have no idea who it is.
Maybe
I don't care, Ty. If you want to give it, Ty, go for it.
So Anjali, I can't give you dates and like places.
Oh no, just a general,
Anjali, she is claiming that at a friend's house, in the mountain area of I don't know what state it is, but in the mountain area, they were having a party, a little get together. They were they admittedly were smoking, not that smoking weed's going to make you see fucking aliens, because that's a literal.
I smoke when I do CE5, but it doesn't affect it,
That's the most horseshit thing. Like the people that are claiming she was smoking marijuana, therefore she's not credible.
They've probably never smoked.
I just smoked 30 seconds ago. Relax, all right? But they were partying. She's also on some other prescription medications like Adderall. Which yes, you can comatose on, but speaking from an addict's point of view, so she made these claims that she was getting, like, she got messages and she had an experience, an encounter with the beings that brought her into the heart of this mountain and gave her all this wisdom and classic kind of protect your planet things, which aren't, even if she's lying, the message is still there, right? Protect your planet, do what needs to be done. She hit all the beats. I don't remember the names. Like I said, I can't give you specifics. It's been a while.
I'll check her out though after this. Sure.
I think one thing that's interesting is that also, real quick though, but what adds credibility is she's a former Department of Defense intelligence officer,
Maybe
right? And so I was able to corroborate,
sure,
that she was giving data and talking with high level officials and flying to give them briefings. So the fact that she had that history, she had run for like some position in Congress or whatever, like House of Reps in like 2000 and I don't even remember at this point, 10 or something in South Dakota. Either way, it was like, oh wow, okay, this person has been in the intelligence. So wow, the fact that they're saying this
seemingly credible,
it's very interesting. And also tie with you getting brought into this this community or topic or thinking about like UFOs and all that. Dude, like the Lou Elizondos, the Chris Mellons, like it's just always interesting. All these people that are the Richard Doty's that's in our doc, you know, like John Ramirez, former retired CIA officer.
He's another great one.
It's great. It's so fascinating that all these people are having these experiences or seeing this data or video or whatever it is. And dude, this is what I think's dope. Similar to you, maybe this whole phenomenon draws us, like brings us into it. Like I wasn't always highly fascinated in UFOs and aliens, right? I was always just curious about everything, but for some reason I felt drawn to it and had to make that. And then same with, you know, like the ghosts and paranormal and Sasquatch. Like I'm just, you know, I'm 37. I'm not somebody who's been consuming this forever and be like, oh, someday I'm going to make a documentary like that. Like, right. Dude, I just, it came out of nowhere, just like the shift that you had. So
yeah, I mean, I went to film school. I was headed down one path, and then all of a sudden just, I right turned it and I was like, fuck this, dude. I'm out of here. Like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go talk, because who's playing Superman is nowhere near important as what we're on the precipice of. And I'm not going to be caught on the side that looked and kept my head buried in the sand. I'm not. I don't want to live like that. And now on the daily, I'm thinking about it and I'm expanding my conscious, whether I want to or not, right? Asking these questions. My family thinks I'm going crazy, but do I care? Nope, not even a bit, because I know I'll be vindicated one day. And however long that takes, I don't mind. And speaking of someone who seemingly has had quite the life is Richard Doty. How was it sitting and hearing that gentleman's testimony? He made some claims that are jaw-dropping, to say the least. So how was that experience? Because he's amazing.
Chris, if I can take this quick and then I'll kick it to you, just because as far as I shot the film and like the interview of him, and then Chris edited it. But so one, man, this whole idea of just creating this documentary company and flying and getting these interviews, like, dude, I got a backpack filled with cameras, right? Gimbal, tripods, lav mics, but like all on my back, like all carry-ons. I'm just like a G, like just flying out, boom, land, sleep in the car. Well, actually I slept, drove all the way down to Roswell because I'm like, I got to get Roswell footage. I know it's 4.5 hours away and I got to drive all the way back, but I'll just do it through the night, right? Sleep for a couple hours along the side of the road, get this B-roll. Lil Pop-Tart, you're a creative dude, so I'm sure you get that. It's like, dude, I have to. I mean, I'm here. I'm not going to get some stock Roswell footage. I'm right here in the same state. So then I come back up, and Richard Doty, here's a little Easter egg. I end up filming the Richard Doty interview at Sue Walker's place. No. So if you saw Conscious Contact, you would never notice because just whatever, the way I arranged everything and different backdrops that I use. But so I had to go all the way back, and it's so cool. Like he to me appears very like genuine, very disarming. Like he was just super nice. He has these glasses. Like, I don't know if that's something.
He's just a guy.
The defense community, being a counterintelligence officer, was that all taught to him? Because I just felt, to me, and I'm typically a really good judge of character, I'm like, man, this guy, I know despite what I have read about him, right, and the things that have done, he seems genuine and sincere in trying to advance this topic and the things he's talking about, while crazy, or maybe more out there than I would have thought. Like, I don't know. I guess it's his grave to dig if that's what he wants to say, and say that the government, as far as 2 UFOs crashing Roswell, whatever, just some different stuff. I'm like, or him meeting an ET. I'm like, wow.
Well,
seeing an ET. It's crazy. Chris, what did you think when you editing that and you seeing that footage? You weren't there at the interview. What's going through your mind as he's dropping some of this stuff? Are you like, wait, what?
Richard Doty?
Yeah.
It's hard not to sit there and just watch.
I'm a very skeptical person by nature. But what's interesting about Richard Doty is everything he says is really interesting, but then it's also his backstory of what he did by hiding and covering up stuff. The whole time I'm like, am I being gaslit like right now? Like, what is real? What isn't? But everything he says is really interesting, and he says it genuinely. John Ramirez is also a really interesting dude, and kind of on the other side of that spectrum, though, where it's like, I don't know. I'm less skeptical with him for some reason.
Doty's disarming. I like how you said that.
Yeah.
Doty's definitely disarming, and it is hard as an OSI, like, because just him saying, "I'm an OSI," naturally you're gonna be like, "Well, I can't believe a goddamn word you ever say," right? It's so hard to. Your job is sowing fucking disinformation through the public about this. One side of your story is about how you tricked everybody, and then you want us to believe all this. So there is a discourse in him, but something about him is very disarming, and you want to believe him. You guys got him to say a little bit more than Greer did when it came to the human, hybridization, the connections, and why this actually might be being covered up. Because it's not being covered up because of a ship that we can't understand or we can't catch, but is it being covered up for a more sinister, close to home reason? So, how do you feel about that aspect? A lot of people have said that and claimed the hybridization thing, and maybe that they, we're an offshoot of them. But where do you guys land in those thoughts?
I wouldn't be surprised, man. I think the universe is a massive, massive place, and yeah, in another 100 to 1,000 years, dude, things are going to look and feel and be just completely different. And we're already landing probes right on Mars, and we're already launching the James Webb telescope, right? So we're seeing further into the past and being able to, like, well, what? This is crazy. Yeah, are we hybrids? I don't know. Like, maybe religion and all that stuff, like maybe those people did see these beams of light. They called them angels, right? Maybe they're UFOs, or maybe they're extraterrestrials coming down and giving these instructions. Like, until something is like proved, like, oh, this definitely did not happen, I would not write it off. Only I would keep an open mind to it, because like, let's be honest, man, history's written by the winners. Like, it just is. So I understand the world and my thoughts and stuff like that. It's a lot of it's shaped by, just the content that I consume. And back in the day, right, all that content was mostly through either school or like what my parents, like whatever culture my parents would allow me to like consume. But so it's crazy now. It's like, bro, a lot of us are being fed our content, the culture content, by an algorithm, right, on social media. Like, it suggests stuff. And so there's a phase 7 months ago where I find myself getting into rap, where I've never really liked rap, but that content, somehow it knew to suggest these interviews or these short reels or whatever it was in this manner.
It's creepy.
Where I'm like, yo, I can respect this. I can appreciate this. This is kind of dope. And so, like, I'm not sure, man. I feel like I got away from but yeah. Oh, could we be hybrids? Yeah. Like, it would not shock me if that's the case.
I'm not a geneticist or anything like that. I cannot talk about DNA comfortably, but they do say that there's one genome or one part of the makeup that makes, humans distinct from every other species on Earth. Could that be the same thing that's linking us to them? Is that the same genome, same strand? I would be very curious to see or know that. Because it always did kind of strike me as odd that life just walked out of the ocean one day. I've always kind of been on the side of a seeding, like an asteroid that hit, terraform the ecosystem to what it is today or something similar. And then, in that primordial stew, that's when we shot up. But this other theory about, direct interference is something that Greer talks about, right? Pop Tart. I mean, Greer talks about it, about how our connection with the extraterrestrials.
He does definitely. But as far as hybridization, you're right. He doesn't elaborate too much on that. I don't know either too much about it. But going back to Richard Doty and religion both, one part that caught my attention the very most, I think the most bombshell whole piece of the movie, was Richard Doty talking about the interview with the ET, and specifically how after they did the surgery to get the voice box and teach it English, how the ET said that it's been here about the past 2,000 years, that his species has been observing our solar system. So that brought up the big question, well, was he around when Jesus was? And that could people have mistaken the ET for Jesus? Or either way, even if not, if it was still here observing, could, the ET knows if Jesus really did exist, what extent of Jesus's powers were, if he actually had some. And that's the whole thing about UFOs. They've been here longer than us, so as long as we've been taking pictures and videos of them, they've been doing the same. So since they've been here, they've been monitoring, taking videos, pictures, whatever. But he said that that ET told them they don't necessarily worship God in the same sense we do, but they do worship a supreme being. And that the ET showed them a little statue inside of the ship, which they would worship and pray to. I just thought that was some of the most bombshell testimony, because I believe Richard Doty 99.9%. He was in some of Greer's movies, and Greer has a 2-hour-long interview on YouTube with just Doty. And I just recently watched that, and I think that he is Bob Lazar on steroids, Bob Lazar times 1,000, because he actually worked, in the cover-up, whereas the Lazar just worked on the propulsion of the craft more as like a scientist. Doty was more,
he was
whole
actively covering things up.
He got more access and, was told a lot more about the subject. So I definitely believe Doty.
I think
to the most extent.
I think it's something. I don't want to go too specific into like what you guys brought up in your actual film, but because I want to leave some surprises, obviously. But I think they've even hinted at there's OSI people when they were talking about, and I think he was talking about George Adamski. He was like, oh, it's this name, and he's like something like this, and I'm like, did he just mean George Adamski? Because that's what it sounded like. And if that's correct, and George famously was in contact with some beings from Venus or something like that, and had these trinkets that he gave over to OSI, talking about that spiritual being, talking about how we don't have it necessarily right, but we don't have it wrong either. So could that be the misconception for religion? That interests me so much. And right after I watched your movie, I watched it a second time, and then I watched Greer's interview with Doty. I couldn't get enough of it. There's something about it that hits a neuron in my head. So I think you're onto something.
Dude, that makes our hearts explode that we're creating, a film like that, to be able to sit down and watch it, twice.
In a row.
I don't in a row. Like, I know you said that. I was thinking, I feel like he was probably just using a bit of hyperbole. But no, in a row, bro, Chris and I are filmmakers. So we understand, like Chris, he has a Bad Movie Night channel where they review B movies, right? And Chris, you just shot a feature film, like Transient, right? Mm-hmm. You're in post-production for it. So I don't know. He knows, I know what it takes to make a movie and what it takes to enjoy a movie, to be good. This is what you do. So for you to like mention that, bro, and be able to watch it twice, our heads are just like, oh, like that means a tremendous amount to us. And that's why we keep going out and making these docs.
I hope the next one you make, invite us out. We'll do something on the road. I love set visits.
Yo, here's what's good. October 15th. That's this October 15th. So this Saturday, 1 p.m. If you can get your buns to Pioneer Cemetery in the abandoned ghost town of Pandemonium, Pennsylvania, and camp out.
Totally do that.
If you can swing that, and we're camping out till Sunday, but we're shooting Ghosts in the Graveyard, Pure Pandemonium. And so that's sick. Like, it lines up with the Ghost Town of Pandemonium. I interviewed this author who had all this history on it. We're camping out at the cemetery where these people met horrific ends of this town that like disappeared back in the early 1900s. Dude, it's wild. It's going to be a sick doc, dude. And we got like wild. We have investigators or just people who are adventurers or into this stuff. So we have like a mixed bunch of people camping out. And so we're looking to get some really dope experiences.
Let me ask you this. Do you guys ever stop working? It sounds like you guys have just been churning out content for the last year. That's awesome.
That was going to be my answer as to why we don't interact that much on Twitter. Right.
This whole year's been filled. That's why.
But I hope that inspires some people to know, like, it's possible, man. If two guys, right, can generate these dope posters, which Chris does as a graphic artist, and, like write this narration and get, like subcontract people to record the audio, narrate it for us and blah, blah. It's like, oh, dude, like if us two knuckleheads can do it and get these interviews, you guys could, like, anybody that's interested in this stuff can go do it. Like, it's possible, and we're proof. And, I think it just takes that idea of like believing that it's possible. And so is that how we manifested this situation? Like, quite possibly. I know when we shot that documentary, we shot the press conference of Anjali on August 17, 2021. I like drive right home. I'm so fired up, like the both of you, that I quickly throw the footage on a computer, boom, cut this little trailer, right, real quick of some stuff she said, this like hype video. And I'm just like, oh, dude, put it on some like socials. I'm like, yo, Chris, we need to get this picked up for distribution. We're going to. And we look up what UFO documentary, like what's the distribution company for dope UFO documentaries. We're like, oh, dude, The Phenomenon, 1091 Pictures. All right. That's who we need to pick this up. And like Chris, man, we had it done in November. Chris, he's like, oh, dude, he's getting discouraged. It's like January, the beginning of January. He's like, man, we got to do something else, man. No, they're not going to pick this up. I'm like, bro, it's not over till I say it's over. All right. So just hold on. And I don't know, like a week or two later, man, we get this, like I follow up again. We finally get this response. Dude, yeah, absolutely. We love this. We love to pick it. I'm like, let's go.
So
and then we just been cranking them out ever since.
Multiple now? Or is it a film by film basis?
It's a film by film basis. Like, they don't have us locked in for anything. Like, oh, hey, you guys got to do 20 docs or 10 or whatever. No. It was just we have a relationship, so
good. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just been dope, man. They've been picking them up as we finish them.
One of the things that I think is fascinating about the alien thing, right? Now, this is a question I've asked certain people, and it's a weird question, but I think it has its justice and merit. Do you think that part of why this is so intriguing is the mystery of not knowing, and post disclosure, will it lose an aspect of that thrill? Will this subject be as lucrative as it is now, so to say? What happens after disclosure for guys like us?
I feel like it would open even more questions about our past and stuff, depending on what is disclosed. And yeah, like right now, there's so many theories about everything, and a lot of them are very compelling, and others, are just interesting. But like, if you get some very concrete information, that might point you down one of those roads more concretely. Mm-hmm. And then from there, even more questions can be asked. I don't see a bad thing in it.
Okay. So are you, what would disclosure be to you? What would hit the dots for you? And you would actually say, okay, that was a government disclosure.
Well, here's what's up real quick. To go back to your last question, I think disclosure only makes things better, right? Because as things like telepathy, or say like Neuralink, right? Like eventually Neuralink, when that's ubiquitous and everybody has it, like that's essentially telepathy, right? I'm just going to send you whatever I want to send you.
Yeah,
you pick it up instantaneously, you send it right back. So at that point, right, are we cutting documentaries in our heads with, not even flying to meet these people, right? I'm just just plugging into them, interviewing them. Maybe at that point, right? Maybe I'm just sifting through their memories, right? I get the real thing. I'm watching what really happened. So I don't know how.
Shit.
Disclosure, I think, would only blow up maybe this community by allowing more freedom to investigate it and propagate it, and create it.
And who knows if we could develop relationships with civilizations, we get to learn all their history, and then we could, who was their Albert Einstein, who was their Nikola Tesla, and there's going to be so many. That's at least my hope, is that it's a mainly positive. But for you guys, what would disclosure look like? Would it be the president coming out and saying, we're not alone, or is it going to be something else?
I mean, that would certainly do it.
That would, the president coming out and saying it, of course, would be, that's disclosure, capital D.
Right.
But I don't think it will necessarily be that. What would meet the criteria for you guys? What would you be satisfied with? Just that they're real? Not.
Yeah, I mean, that would. But it's such a difficult time now with how partisan everyone is in the United States and how no one trusts the media anymore. So even if a major media company came out and said, we have proof of this, not everyone's still going to buy into it. So, and even if the president came out, there's probably a large amount of people who would say it's some sort of manipulation or something like that. So, but for me, probably some major high up government office coming out with proof and all kinds of data to back it up. That would definitely work.
Yeah. And I think it would need to be global government, right? You need the UN, you need multiple government, because otherwise you're still at the well, what do they have to gain from this? Right. And so I feel it's a matter of just maybe building this mass consciousness, is aware of it, and then it almost makes it more real kind of deal. I don't, I think there's something to that mass, just that, I don't know, mass consciousness, right? What everybody is thinking of and about. And so, but I don't know if I interview enough people, experiencers, maybe at that point it doesn't even matter. It's when I lay my head down at night, you know what? I feel there's a very, very, very good chance it definitely is real. And you just think of how big the universe is, almost infinite, right? And so you think of all those billions of habitable planets around stars, and you just need what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Well, how many? Maybe a billion that started before us and evolved. If they're going at the same technological evolutionary rate, if they just started 100 years before us, they might already be here, right? If they started 1,000 years before us, well, dude, in 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 years, we're going to be doing some stuff that we can't even conceive, we can't even think of right now. And there'll be kids 100,000 years from now, be like, what? Dude, those people were savages. They did live shows, podcasts on YouTube and computer. What? Those people were so ancient. I feel bad for them. And us, we're dude, I love this stuff. This is great.
Can I answer that most too likely after him?
There's people here, or aliens here. What's up?
I was going to say, can I answer that question too that Ty asked about the disclosure? Because
no, opinion, you can't. We're moving on.
Well, I know. I just wanted to get it before I forgot. But my opinion on that just kind of changed listening to you guys talk about it. I think disclosure, is kind of a personal thing too. The president, if he came out and said, more about UFOs or ETs, that would obviously be this, the coffin in the nail basically is okay, it's nobody can deny it now. But there's been so many presidents that after they've been out of office have talked about it. But for me personally, My disclosure was 2020 when the government came out and said UFOs are real. Before that, I had no idea at all, and the government telling me that and was enough of a disclosure for me to say what the hell, like have I been a sheep this whole time? Like I'm waiting for the government to tell me something's real for me to even realize it or even question it. So that's when I started doing all of my research every day. And so to me that was disclosure. And these military people, it's like I have no reason to doubt them about what they saw, at least at the time or anything. So yeah, seemed very legit and credible. And it was, even though it didn't last for long, it was still big news for a few days at least.
It was the UAP task force, right? This government body, Congress, saying, okay, I can't remember the exact number, but like 119 or 141 out of 144, whatever it was, could not be identified. They say, hey, it's not our tech, it's not foreign tech. Like I feel like that's, putting it in the public's like consciousness or hemisphere of like, trying to get people to be like, oh, hey, it's not a good idea until I think of it, right? So if it's like, okay, well, it's not ours, it's not another country's, well, I mean, I don't know, what does that leave, right?
Yeah.
I feel like extraterrestrial is the only possible thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't take me long at all studying just basic before I got into Greer, which was in November of 2020. Before that, I was just watching all the UFO documentaries I could. And it took me like one documentary to realize, okay, most of these are ETs, the ones that aren't, I feel like it's actually a lot smaller percentage that are fake or hoax. I feel like that percentage is a lot smaller than they say. They say it's like 90% are explainable. I don't believe that. I think more so 90% are unexplainable or ET whatever. And then it's the 10% that it would be faked or hoax or whatever. But yeah, so.
Billy asks, what challenges did y'all face making this film with this Southern twang? So did you guys face any challenges while filming this?
No.
Not really. No.
Not filming.
No.
No. The editing was more
was
challenging in this one. I will say that. But we were struggling to wrap up our last movie, The Secrets of Sasquatch, because we were looking for a specific type of person to interview, an anthropologist at the time. But for this movie, we kind of had an abundance of interviews, honestly. There was a lot of stuff I had to cut just to, kind of shape the movie in certain ways. So from an editing aspect, it was challenging because we had like an hour and a half of Richard Doty,
That's what I was about to ask you, bro. I was wondering.
Yeah, send me the unedited version.
If you guys could do
more.
Specifically, Chris, do you guys have enough footage of the Doty interview that you could put out a video like Dr. Greer did of the entire just Doty interview, whether it's an hour, whatever, of just him? Is there more like footage of, or did he give more testimony than what we saw? I'm sure you guys had to cut out and leave out a lot.
There's definitely stuff that was cut, that like topics, just because when you're crafting a story like this, like everybody's individual stories, I as an editor, I'm looking for patterns so that I can naturally keep the story compelling and interesting to jump around to different people. So there was topics that they would all bring up that were just kind of one-offs and no relation to the others. Not that they aren't interesting, it's just harder to fit into the narrative. That would be a good thing to go back and look. The other thing is with John Ramirez and Richard Doty, these guys, like, they don't feel like they're like crafting a story to tell you. It feels like they're like telling you their history or their backstory. And so they'll be like just chatting along, and then they'll be like, I can't say anything about this because of whatever, past agreements I made and stuff like that. So there'd be moments where he would kind of have to, change to a different topic or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. But we had a lot of footage of both of those guys.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. And even what might also be cool is taking those like one-off topics that don't make it into the documentary and just putting out a short videos on our YouTube and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that'd be dope.
It's not a bad idea.
For sure. And no challenges. Dude, I love hopping off these planes and I'm like getting these rental cars and I'm like, bro, I'm like in a Jason Bourne movie right now. Like, you understand? Like, I'm driving to John Ramirez's house. there's these crazy mountains, like it's just this picturesque scene. I'm like checking rear view mirror, like it's just
And
nuts.
you're
Same
about to
deal
go
with
talk
Richard.
about fucking UFOs.
Yeah, dude, to talk about UFOs and extraterrestrials. So yeah, no, it wasn't, man. I think I got the John Ramirez interview in January of 2022. April of 2022, I got the Richard Doty one. You know, by reaching out to these people. We also have Jesse Peak, who's a MUFON field investigator, right? So the Mutual UFO Network. We've got Tom Carey, who's a Roswell expert and author. I mean, the guy's interviewed over 600 first and secondhand witnesses to Roswell, written 20 books. So like, and as Chris was talking about, man, if anything, it was somewhat serendipitous of how like we go to film this Tom Carey interview with for In Plain Sight, the intelligence community and UFOs. And I'm like, oh, dude, for a month or two, I'm like, Chris, for Secrets of the Sasquatch, we really need like a degreed anthropologist to talk on Sasquatch, Bigfoot. I would like that angle for the doc. Like, I feel like it just helps support it. And bro, we interviewed Tom Carey, and like throughout this interview, at some point he mentions he's a degreed anthropologist and mentions that. I'm like, oh man, we wrapped the interview. I'm like, yo, Tom, can you go change shirts? Can you go sit on this chair on the other side of the room? We're going to throw the lights, cameras back up, and we're going to get an interview for Sasquatch. And so I saw somebody also asked earlier, Secrets of the Sasquatch is out now on Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, PlayStation, and Microsoft. And In Plain Sight, the intelligence community and UFOs, that's coming out October 18th on all those same platforms.
Awesome.
But so, yeah, no, these things, like they all just come together. And then same Eric Mintel, who's an experiencer, investigator in like the Philadelphia area, Bucks County area. He was a great person to interview. And yeah, between the five, it's like we had those wrapped. And then it was like, hey, Chris, yeah, man, we've got enough. Now do your thing.
Right.
And
that's got to be
they just come together.
Good feeling. So you guys obviously have a real big focus on Roswell. Now, was that always going to be the case, or did it just line up that way in editing, like you said, Chris? Because for the knowledgeable viewer, the well-versed viewer, this was a little bit more of a dive into the more obscure aspects of what happened, but you also hit the main notes and kind of retell the Roswell story. So did you start there for a reason? Is that where it was all going to focus regardless?
We didn't approach any specific like storyline, if you want to call it that. We just kind of let these people tell their stories and then find the patterns, like I was saying. Yep. So, I mean, with someone like Tom Carey, who has an immense knowledge of the Roswell incident based on all of his books and everything, it's no surprise he was going to talk quite a bit about it. But Richard Doty talking a lot about it, to me, was what was very interesting. And so with both of them bouncing back and forth, and like I was always familiar with the Roswell story, the surface details, but they like really dive into all these different aspects of it. So it was just like, okay, yeah, this is just interesting. And it is about a lot about the cover up. So yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it wasn't pre-planned. I think John Ramirez being the first interview, he just happened to bring up some stuff about it that were like super interesting. And when I released the trailer and he was talking about maybe alien hybrids and stuff, I'm like, oh man. So when we get the other people, I believe like Richard Doty and stuff, they had seen the trailers we had cut before of the like short segments of, so I guess some of them saw Roswell stuff and maybe that's why they spoke to it some more, but I don't know. I just kind of, like I said, I kind of let them go, man. I let them share their stories, and once in a while I'll bring up, oh, I remember so-and-so mentioned this. Hey, do you have any opinion on hybrids or something like that? But like 9 times out of 10, they're bringing that stuff up anyways. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yo, so-and-so just said that literally yeah, 2 weeks ago. I can't believe I have this on camera. So it's just, surprised. It's a lot of fate, man, and destiny. Like we're not really trying to script a lot of stuff. And same thing with like now In Plain Sight, the intelligence community UFOs is the first doc of our 4 that doesn't have any narration. But the other stuff, it was cool. It's not like we wrote these storylines or narration beforehand. I'd be driving down the road, right? And all of a sudden, like, just this idea of like, oh, this would be a great line for narration. Like, it just would. And I just record it in the phone, send it to Chris, and he would stack these up. And over the course of whatever it is, a month, and as he has like whatever it comes out to, 8 or 10, he starts editing the doc, and he's like, oh my gosh, dude, this is crazy. These things just happen to fit in here. So it's been really, really cool, man, watching this come to fruition.
Filmmaking process is so fun. And when you can turn nothing into something, it's truly a beautiful and very unique situation. So for you to have done that, not once, but for me twice, because the only 2 of yours I've watched are Conscious Contact and this one. But now I'll go back and, fill in. You've kind of created your own, sequel situation. But I really like that you went back to Roswell and kind of started from the beginning of because I don't think it starts at Roswell. Our story starts at Roswell. That's the creme de la creme of UFO lore. Do you have any opinions on that story, the Roswell story? Do you have any things that you want to share? Maybe that didn't make it in, because I think Roswell's a tough one.
Chris,
I'm trying to think of like things that didn't make
For
it
instance,
in.
I'll start here. I'm an interstellar. I'm an interstellar civilization. I can create a craft that can transverse the universe. I get to my destination and I crash. What are the odds? How does that happen? And then, they let the humans take them, right? It all seems so easy. So, I mean, do we want to believe in Roswell, or, do you think it actually 100% happened?
I'm of both minds there.
For
I don't
instance,
know.
if you look at Dr. Greer, right? Dr. Greer claims, Little Pop Tarts of that same mindset, claims that they can summon these craft here, whether interdimensional or universal, right? They can summon them here. But then again, now we got them crashing. And this isn't the only story about a UFO crash. So, why are these things crashing? How are they crashing?
I don't know. I think the universe is probably still there's so much that we don't understand of quantum mechanics, quantum physics, that, things like nuclear bombs, EMPs, things like that, right? Like why do UFOs or UAPs appear to be interested in them? Well, does that knock them out of the sky? Knock them out of the sky?
Them down. That's another point.
Yeah. So I mean, all that stuff. It's like, oh, I don't know. You would think, right? Oh man, if you're that advanced, how do you crash something? But I don't know. Mo money, mo problems, right? So maybe the more advanced you are, there's something right that just happens to put a kink in, to put a kink in in what you're trying to do. So it's like, oh bro, there's Wi-Fi signals, there's AM, FM radio, there's waves, there's stuff traveling all around me right now. My eyes, the frequency, my ears, the spectrum, all these things that I hear and see they're just not tuned to see that stuff. But it's not saying
maybe
it's not
something
there.
Yeah, maybe
there.
Something they didn't expect, when they were doing their reconnaissance. I guess I can see that.
I could say, I don't know.
I mean,
think the government
Fox,
covering it up in the beginning seems suspicious. I don't know why the media, why they would report it crashed and then take it back. I mean, just right there, it's like, oh, dude, that just opens up a big can of worms, man. How can you do that?
Yeah, I think that is the part that has everyone's attention, right? That initial story versus the second story. Which one's the truth, if any, right? So, it just makes me laugh.
spaceship
does.
too.
Oh, yeah.
And they pointed out, I think, in your guys' movie that like it would have been more believable if they said this was a fighter jet or anything, you know, like secret that we were working on. That would have been more believable than fucking weather balloon.
Yeah, no one would have.
This
no
was
one would've
Roswell,
second-guessed it.
where the first or the only atomic bombs were at the time. So, you know, if what they were saying in the movie is true, if they really did collide, they were most likely observing our nuclear weaponry like they still do. And whatever happened, happened. That was bombshell testimony, though, in the movie that those two collided. I had never heard that in, you know, anything that I've done in the field.
Wait. And they said it collided.
They said
ships
two
collided?
ships.
We don't want to give it
collided at
too much
Roswell.
away. There was multiple people spoke on it. Richard Doty mentioned
How did I miss that?
during a lightning storm. But I was like, yeah, man, you know what? Dude, if this is what Richard's saying, and he's saying as far as he knows, that's the data the government has on Roswell, I'm like, well, I mean, we got to include it. This is what he is saying. It's new information, or I feel like after the fact, and this was only like 5 days ago, I feel like somehow something got suggested saying, I think Lou Elizondo had mentioned something about maybe 2 craft at Roswell. So I'm like, oh, wow. Well, that's kind of interesting that we've got intelligence officers. Yeah, he said that back in the doc. Wait, I'm like, dude, that's crazy. Both these people are saying this now. Huh.
Yeah, so definitely don't, you don't have to elaborate too much further because
No.
I want to keep some stuff surprises. You guys are going to be, releasing right around the same time as James Fox's new documentary, Moment of Contact, which is another crashed UFO, but, a story that goes so much further. Did you plan to go up day and day? Because you guys are literally day and day.
We don't have control, essentially, when our movie comes out. Once this distributor picks it up and we do all the deliverables, they kind of plan when it'll be coming out.
I wonder if they did it on purpose.
There's a possibility there, you know what I mean? To back up to...
Spark the interest, yeah.
Spark the interest there. And I believe that one is that one also 1091 Pictures?
James works with 1091 a lot, so I think it is.
So, yeah, there could be that.
They're hoping that... Because that's one thing about the UFO community I will say is, even for me, I don't necessarily subscribe to Greer's beliefs, but I watch everything he does. I consume all the content and then I directly apprehend my own answer, right? I can tell you 2 + 2 is 4, but until you go figure it out yourself, you'll never know.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. That's what life's about. And it's like, just to become a well-rounded individual in general, right? You need to be exposed to just as much information as you can so you can make your own decisions and beliefs and not be afraid that when new information is presented to shift your beliefs. You don't need to double down, triple down on something just because you used to believe that. Like, dude, we're just all growing and experiencing stuff and just trying to become better people. So, I love, I don't know. It's just neat that I've come like the Greer stuff and consciousness and CE5 and all that stuff. It's like, oh man, I don't know. There's enough wild experiences, like thinking of somebody who I haven't talked to in years and then them texting me, right? Like 10 minutes later or something. It's like, whoa, like, wow, it doesn't happen every time, but just the fact that it happens like enough out of the very few times I'm thinking of it, like it makes you wonder, right? So it's like, I'm sure there's a lot more to this world than science has, told us and discovered right now. I mean, here's what's up. I'm wearing the Eagles jersey right now because I don't know what the score is. They were up 14-0 when we started, but they're the last undefeated team in the NFL, and it's thanks, I believe, to CERN throwing on that LHC, the Large Hadron Collider back on July 5th, man. Sent us into a different timeline. Eagles win the Super Bowl, go undefeated. This entire timeline here.
So are you from Philly?
Universe being connected.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's from Lancaster.
And there's stuff to speaking out, I think throwing something out into the universe increases the odds of it happening. I've just experienced it enough in my life, man, that dude, don't be afraid to voice something that you want to do or believe in or are passionate about or man, I want to get $10 million by the time I'm 40. Let's go. There's no shame in one, we're just conditioned to have like small dreams. So, and no, dude, well, I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So, yep, hour and a half west of Philly.
I'm in Boston. I could get to you pretty quick.
Oh my gosh.
I could get to over there.
October 15th. Yeah. No, that's Saturday. You can definitely make the drive.
But what I really liked that you guys included some things. I don't want to go too deep into it, but you guys talked about the Holland Air Force Base landing, and this is something that's known throughout the community. So it's not something that we a bombshell that we're dropping, but that film, that footage. Do you think that exists somewhere? That is, one day we'll see that Holland Air Force landing. I think that is I think you were insinuating this, but I don't necessarily know. Were you insinuating that is the film that they were gonna send? Nixon was gonna send to that UFO past, present, and future documentarian? Is that what the cusp was?
Yes.
Right. So other people have said that. What do you think about that story and the facts that you have seen?
I want to see it.
I want to see it so bad. It's not even. It's no joke.
I don't think we will, though. Yeah, I don't think we will see it.
You guys put a
but
little
see, when
clip
you
on-
say
you guys
that,
put a
it
little clip, I
decreases
thought
the
was it.
or it increases the odds of it not happening, right? So me and Lil Pop Tart over here saying like, come on, you know what? I won't be shocked if somehow it is materialized, because what's up? Like, dude, the gimbal video or Tic Tac, I can't remember which one, but like had popped up. Wasn't it some like German graphic design forum somehow, like, right? Like it made it into the internet, into the wild before the New York Times dropped it. So
Long
like,
before.
yeah, is there other stuff out there that is real? And yeah, I don't know. Maybe somehow that the Holloman Air Force Base footage, boop, one day it pops up. Everybody's like, yeah, nah, that's a fake. That's definitely fake. And then 10, 15 years later, it's like, now guys, we tried to let you know, like, hey, here's this footage, and yeah, it is real, but y'all called us a bunch of bots.
It's like, because think about it. That would have been disclosure from Nixon, but Watergate happened, right? Watergate happens, and he pulls back and doesn't deliver the footage as the story goes. At least as how we know it, it kind of makes sense, and it would fall into the overall narrative of like, the where the president stopped knowing. You can kind of track it where the president stopped being told everything. It's because of all these kind of situations. Eisenhower lost control, and from there it was just downhill. I could listen to Doty talk for days, like literally. But is there anyone else that you would have loved, like to include?
I'll throw it in the universe. I've been trying to get an interview with Lou Elizondo. We tried, reached out to him for Conscious Contact Full Disclosure, tried for, for this one. It's been dope. Some of the other people I've reached out to, like maybe Chris Mellon, had reached out to him for Conscious Contact Full Disclosure. Dude, the fact that I'm just getting replies from these people who have, they don't know me from Adam. They don't have to respond to me, but they're emailing back saying, hey, unfortunately, don't have the bandwidth, or covered up with other stuff. But best of luck making, your film. Like, that's dope, man. I'm floored that these people are even replying to me. So I'm going to just keep asking people that I find credible and interesting and genuine in their experiences. And, it's a numbers game, right? Some people will say no, but if you ask enough, you're going to get people to say yes.
I live on. I email Will Smith, his manager, once a week. I get told no once a week. However, that no one day will be a yes. I promise.
Exactly.
Right?
It will. Yep. Things line up where, he's got to do your show. Yep. It benefits him to do it, and it will. So keep dreaming that, thinking that into existence.
So back to the I didn't mean to jump off there. The Air Force Base, the landing video. do you think that, you know, do you think that it's possible, you know, that may be how, you know, it happens in the future, right? So they release something in that same way, you know, to include in a documentary, a 6-part from the United States government documentary, you know, made with them to disclose the truth. You know, in like a 6-part series, it would kind of, you know, I think that'd be might be a cool idea. You know, if the government's ever listening, by the way, I think you should do a documentary about it. That's how you should.
I'm sure they are listening. And I think, you know, but who knows? Like maybe 15, 20, 30 years from now, they say like, well, what are you talking about? We had the 2020 UAP task force report. We told you it wasn't theirs. It wasn't ours. We, you know, we gave you the gimbal video and we gave you the testimony from the radar operators and the pilots, and they all said it was otherworldly. We, you know, and so it, like, who knows? Like maybe in their mind, it's like, yo, well, we already disclosed it, man, and these people still are not generating enough momentum and interest to really want to uncover it. So maybe it's not, you know, I think stuff like we're doing maybe helps advance the release of this stuff. I mean, the fact that Congress is even holding, like, there's these quarterly reports that need to be given now, right? And there's like a new form and way that pilots can report these sightings. Dude, like, that's just nasty. Who would have ever thought we'd get here? So, I don't know, like maybe disclose. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they did release that down the road. Yep. And people still say no, well, but I would like it. Great.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, right? Like say the story is 100% true. Everything detail is true. This means that the president at the time was looking for a way to, you know, connect with people and make himself look better to get reelected. All right, well, let's disclose some truth, right? You know, help out that community, show them that we're willing to work with them, right? And tell them things. I mean, if it ever came down to it, and like the government, you know, endorsed like a 3-part series that was on History Channel, and they were like, included in this thing is this landing, and being stepped out, man, I'd fucking shit myself. It would just be amazing. And I think, do you think we're ready? I mean, do you think society's ready, or would we, you know, say Nixon did give that footage up? Would religion have collapsed? Would people be running down the street? Why to go to work? Why pay my taxes? Do you think it would, you know, what do you think will happen in that sense?
I don't think society's ready. I don't know if it would ever be ready. I think, yes, there would be some of all those things you said.
Rioting, like you know.
Just think of how it like completely shift a lot of people's worldview, just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah. No preparation.
I'm friends with Kevin Day. You know, he's famous for being with the Nimitz. You know, he was the guy in the Princeton who was tracking these things days before, you know, he vectored Fravor to go chase the thing. And he said that his life, like everything changed, right? All in one moment. His whole world just got flipped upside down. You know, he almost lost his life, lost his wife, lost his kids, lost his job, or got pushed into retirement. His whole life just came crashing down after that. And now he had this radical change in how he perceived himself in the universe. And he said to me, Tyler, what if that happens to every person at the same time? And it scared the fuck out of me. You know, 20-year Navy, you know, Navy seaman saying that to you. I mean, like crying when he's saying it. Not a good experience, man. So that's what I'm nervous about.
See, but I think, man, I just try and be more positive and optimistic. Like, you know, I noticed, you know, I don't know if it was in 2020 or whatever it was, where like the Vatican, right? Like Catholicism, like they like the doctrine, whatever it was, or they made some, I can't remember, statement saying like, oh, like extraterrestrials like wouldn't go against our doctrine,
Yeah,
right?
that was the
Like
Pope.
the Pope, right?
The fucking
So it's
literal
like,
Pope.
hold on, are things set up so that if something is disclosed, they're like, well, dude, we said this 3 years ago that it doesn't go against it. Like the deal God made was with like humans, like not these other extraterrestrial beings or whatever. Like the explanation is, I don't know. It's fascinating. I think we could get through it. I don't think so. Society would collapse if
Me neither.
I think if there's some sort of progress in technology, I think that would help us cope with the shock.
I think
President Carter, I saw a video yesterday of President Carter, who I just found out still alive, like 98 years old, of him at a UFO convention. I don't know when, but pretty recent. Just talking about one of his UFO sightings that he had many years ago, and it was, mostly traditional sighting, but still very extraordinary, especially from a former president.
Exactly. And
And
he's the one where as story has it, didn't he leave some meeting visibly shaken, crying or something like that? And
I'm
they
not sure.
had suspected that he was
so
given what's that?
Jimmy Carter came out of a building, I think, and saw it. And saw it, and it was a really like, very minute a sighting, but
subtle
it changed him.
sighting.
Yeah, subtle sighting, but it changed him, and because he knew it wasn't of, what we could do. I don't. The story that you're talking about, I know who you're talking about though. And it's gonna drive me crazy.
It wasn't Jimmy Carter, I think.
No, I don't think it was Jimmy, because Jimmy's
There's
was a
a lot
more
of
boring
precedents.
story.
I thought
That's
I know his sighting story was, but I thought there was something when he became president. Somehow he came out of some meeting,
He
visibly
signed a
shaken,
paper.
and it was thought that he was disclosed, or it was disclosed, information about extraterrestrials. And I think if he was very religious or whatever, it altered, that's why he shook him. That's what the story was. So this was something different, and it was neat. Some former friend of his I stumbled upon on Reddit, and I was maybe going to get an interview from her for Conscious Contact, full disclosure. She had a UFO sighting experience, but she had mentioned, we just never got the interview, and she had mentioned she wouldn't speak anything on Jimmy Carter or anything like that. But it was just wild that I'm even talking to these people. It's crazy.
Well, listen to this. Ty mentions I was kind of subtle for Jimmy Carter, but my own personal theory from doing CE5, which it actually took me 7 months after Greer's documentary Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind was released. It took me 7 months every day practicing it exactly by the book before I had my first contact June 1st, 2021. So those entire 7 months, I was, the biggest skeptic about it all. I started thinking all of it was fake, even the UFOs in general were fake. But then I finally had my first. But to what he was saying though about they can be subtle at times, and most of the time that even myself having a contact experience, I'd say 99% of the time it was an orb, just a solid ball of light, whether orange, red, white, whatever, just one solid ball of light. And whenever my son, who I say he's the youngest human to ever contact UFOs, and I say that very, very proudly, but also with confidence, because no one's ever disputed it. Even Greer's first contact was 9. So, but the first contact my kid had was a solid orb. At nighttime, it was just an orb, and I got it on video too. And I have neighbors, witnesses, and I was really happy because it was so subtle and it wasn't overwhelming. Which I had seen a triangle craft, days prior, and it was super, almost overwhelming. I saw the bottom of it flew right over my head. And then I saw the technology on the underneath. It was like red honeycomb breathing lights. The second contact my child made was the most extraordinary out of any contact I've ever had, more extraordinary than any footage I've ever seen. In broad daylight, I'll tell you, we were sitting in my house I'm at right now in the living room, and I was just watching UFO videos on my phone like normal. And my kid said, "Daddy, I want to see aliens." So I said, "Okay, buddy, just do what you did last time and close your eyes and think about them." So he did. He went like this, I said, "Now ask him to come over." He said, "Will you guys come over?" I said, "Tell them we're doing CE5. He said that. I said, "Tell them we're meditating." really weren't, but I said, tell him we're meditating. And he said it. And I said, all right, let's go. He opened his, I said, let's go. We both ran out this back door right here. I looked up and then turned around, and approximately 20 feet above my house was a 30, 40 foot long silver disc, seamless, completely hovering for, I'd say, 5, 6, 7, 10 seconds until I pulled up my iPad. The second I pulled up my iPad and I said, look, buddy, you did it. You did it again. That exact second, just like that, shape shifted from a physical object to a little bitty orb in front of our eyes. And that's what I got on video for about 5 seconds is the orb, until all of a sudden just disappears on camera, proving right there that it's non-human technology because we can't just disappear, which I thought that it went back to wherever it was from. I thought it was gone, thought the experience was over. About 5 minutes later, we're still outside. My kid said, Daddy, aliens. I'm like, yeah, right. I said, where? And he said, right there. And even closer to us this time, like closer down by the house, closer to the ground, was that same exact orb in the middle of a flock of birds, flying with the birds in perfect synchronization.
Yeah.
And I'll remember that moment till the minute that I die. It was insane. But beautiful. It's the most beautiful experience because I'm like, this means that kids can do it. They should do it. It's stimulating. It's healthy physically and mentally. These ETs really are peaceful, and they really do want to help us evolve, and spiritually, not just technologically. We've already got the technology, and we haven't even the technology we have, not from the nuclear weapons, whatever. We don't use our technology properly. So, maybe it is a good thing that not many people do have access to these craft. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but that's why I got into the subject, is so I can get more.
Yeah, I think.
And also something you
was
said
it
about
overwhelming? Seeing
no.
all
So
that
for
in
me,
one.
I was asking specifically. I was sending messages to the ETs, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do. And the thing is, the whole time, the first 7 months when I was practicing it exactly by Greer's fucking steps, his protocols, you're supposed to meditate. That's the big thing, meditation, meditation. And I would meditate for 30 minutes. Even sometimes I tried like an hour, but with no luck. I'd go outside and not see anything. And then finally, when someone on Instagram had said, bro, just stop overthinking it, just go out there and try it, say, fuck it. I did June 1st, and I had my first sighting of a solid orb, which I have on video too. After that, it basically opened the floodgates, and I was able to do it all the time, and was having about 20 to 30 sightings each night, mostly orbs, interacting with each other, doing crazy things. And I was like, is this normal for CE5 or what? Apparently it wasn't, because that never happened to me, again, that many times. You know what I'm saying? I would have sightings, but not that many at once. But the thing is that you were saying how, like, whenever, it was a good analogy how you said, whenever you think about a friend and then 10 minutes later they text you. That is how the universe works, apparently, and according to all this. Same with making contact. That's how you send the message to the ETs, is through your brain, which, if they have any better technology than us, if they have anything better than a freaking iPhone, they will have telepathic, technology, which is what even Elon Musk has been working on the early stages of. So of course they would have more advanced, and that would be more advanced. But you said the physical, how it connects the physical universe. I think that that's true. It is all connected, and you really can, like, just with the random number generator, how you think about it, and it'll give you more ones or more zeros, whatever, and that proves right there. So once we
Yeah,
get to that stage of
number
evolution,
generator.
we can do more things with our mind, and the possibilities are really limitless.
I think evolution. You'd think, right? Because what is pressuring humans anymore? Nothing physical. Nothing physical is threatening us anymore. So we're not going to evolve physically. What we're going to do is we're going to evolve mentally. That's where the
Right.
plague is, right? Our thinking and our thoughts. We're
That's what
still
we've been
very
suppressed from,
tribal.
is we've been suppressed from the entire evolution. That the next stage that we were supposed to go to in the 40s, 50s, whatever. And something else I thought you guys might find interesting that got no coverage. It was never even a rumor where I live. An hour south of where I'm at in Missouri, it's a place called Cape Girardeau. There was an alleged UFO crash there in 1943, and it just got covered up really well. Apparently, a pastor came and prayed over the dead ET body, and et cetera, et cetera. But allegedly, that's where the very first transistor came from, which we know today is millions of transistors in the iPhone and such. So it's very
Yeah.
possible that the iPhone even is alien technology. I'm not
Imagine
sure,
that.
but something to look into. You know what I mean? I don't know much about that crash, but except I'm close to it, and I'd like to go see the spot if I can find it.
Yeah. Do you think that, going back to the hybridization thing, do you think that they go to each of these, if that is true, and this whatever species is changing DNA and working with DNA to come up with intelligent life forms? Do you think that they go to the planet and choose the life form that they're gonna, like, okay, this is the most advanced, or this is the one that could be changed the easiest to get to the end result? And maybe that's why they took a chimpanzee and or whatever fucking monkey it was, and then worked from there. But we hear about the reptilian race, right? So what if they went to a planet and instead of a monkey, it was a lizard or something that they chose? I think that could fall in line with that as well.
Yeah, no, I think that yeah, like I wouldn't be shocked whether well it makes sense. And like think about it, like like we as a civilized society, right? Like there's still like uncontacted tribes, right, in the Amazon or wherever, where we don't interfere with them. So even like if intelligent life finds us, I'm sure there's mad protocols of just studying that stuff. Don't want to interfere. Oh wait, well, man, what if we gave them this little nut? Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's some massive, complex, just
It's
infinite
organized, probably.
scenarios that, yeah, of like who's studying, who's trying to help advance, who's doing whatever, because we're doing this now. And there's somebody in that uncontacted Amazonian tribe seeing a plane, right? Seeing a drone, saying, yo, bro, there's something more than life as we know it out there. And everybody in that village is like, nah, not happening.
There is a story like that. The cargo people, the cargo tribe. So don't know, again, look this up, for the actual 100%, details. But there was a tribe, an uncontacted tribe on an island, and during World War I or World War II, they were using that. They wanted to use that island as a spot. Whatever. Again, details are fleeting me, but the Allies would land, or the Americans would land in their planes, which these people had never seen before, and bring them goods. They would give them goods to be, as a gesture. Don't kill us. We're here for good reasons. That tribe began building runways and statues of the planes, because when the planes would come, so would water, all these other things. And they began to worship this fucking these cargo planes that were coming in. So it's already happened. It's literally already happened.
Exactly.
They would make figurines of the planes. It's crazy.
We're conditioning them to get used to our presence too. I heard the story. I didn't hear all of it, but it was helicopters, and the tribe had shot or tried to shoot them down with bow and arrows. That's all that I knew. But that's basically how we are with UFOs, though. They've been conditioning us, and more so, I think they're doing a lot more than observing. I think that they are actively, they're actively not just involved, but deeply, deeply involved in our entire evolution, our entire existence. I think they're very, very involved. That we just haven't got. We're just now getting to the point to where we can actually coexist with them, and be more on their level, and actually interact with them and with human initiated contact with different ways. And I'm excited to see what the future will be like, for humanity, for Earth.
One notion that I find that needs to be worked on in the UFO community is the threat narrative, that these things are a threat. Now this brings up one of my critiques, the scary alien cutscene. I don't know that I enjoy it. Like, for instance, James Fox calls these things creatures, but then says they're non-threatening and just want to, just needed help. People always are contradicting their stories with these, referring to them as creatures, or, because creatures, we think fucking monsters and what goes bump in the night. We don't think of like another
Animal.
Human, right?
Yeah.
And then
we think more primitive when you say creature.
Right, and then you used it a couple times. This is how far I had to go to critique you. Was that you used maybe once or twice the scary alien cutscene where it's a scary being, and then it goes.
It's
to the next
entertainment,
thing.
though. You know what I mean? So,
I get it. I do.
I get it, too.
That's how far I had
Yeah.
to go to critique.
And dude, I love that. That's how far you had to go. And I would implore you. It's like, well, it's scary to you, but that might be subjective. I don't think
it is. Yeah,
Chris, were we trying? I mean, I don't think we were ever trying
I wasn't
to
scared.
really scare anybody.
Okay, let's hold on. I wasn't scared. I was like, holy shit,
he turned it
I
on.
was fucking scared, guys.
Personally, but I will say this. So here's a as far as the threat narrative, I had a really unique experience after I interviewed Sue Walker for Conscious Contact Full Disclosure. So this is like just the second interview in that. The first doc we released, it's not even picked up. We have nothing. And I come back, and these Ponti, these extraterrestrials that she's in telepathic contact with, when I get back from that interview, and she had mentioned, hey, the Ponti might visit you if you voice that you're okay with it. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah, she's just like, some people who've left the interviews have had this experience. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm fine with it. She's like, well, what about your son? I'm like, oh, yeah, he'd be fine with it. So I get back, and we just have a few unique experiences where his inhaler was physically right there, and then we went to pick it up, and it just disappeared. We're looking all over for it, can't find it, and then somehow as we're grid walking the living room again, it's just laying a foot away from where it should have been. I'm like, what, bro? So we had just had a couple odd occurrences. And Sue had mentioned, hey, they would never do any harm. They tease. They're just, maybe investigating. His medication disappeared, whatever. So it got to the point where my son, he was getting a little wigged out. I'm like, look, bro, if any extraterrestrials or anything out there, aliens, Ponti, wanted to harm us, bro, it'd be done. We wouldn't even have a chance. It'd already be over. And so if anything, I'm like, yo, Ponti, here's what's up. If you're out there playing tricks on us, yo, can you please make Dad the best filmmaker in the universe? And bro, I shit you not, we have had 4 documentaries picked up since stating that. So if the Ponti been helping, we sincerely appreciate it. But it was wild. And then we didn't have any any odd occurrences, anything disappearing or moving or anything after that. But it was so it was cool. But I'm not really for the threat narrative per se. I think if that was going to happen, man, it'd already be over with.
We wouldn't even be able to have this conversation.
Nah,
Gary Nolan says something that's, I continue to say, if they wanted to, if annihilate us, they would go to the asteroid belt and push the biggest one that they could find our way. And it's over. Done deal. Cleansed. Start fresh. If they want, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation. And so to assume, and I get it from an intelligence standpoint, anything you can't understand, it's a threat. But I think going off of that notion is
they figured
primitive.
it out, though. They got the answer. It's when they first started, I could see that's everybody, military especially, that's going to be their first response. Oh shit, something I don't know, is it a threat? But once someone does any research, like myself or you or anyone, it's so easy to learn they're not a threat. It's just any amount of research will do it. And going back to what I said about subtleness earlier, I didn't actually close up and finish it. My brain went wherever. But what I was trying to say is, I believe personally that they are an orb about 99% of the time, just to be subtle and just to not overwhelm people, like my kid, and like the last contact I had was in December with my girlfriend's grandparents. And, they're older and super traditional, and never seen or believed anything like this. Besides just what I've talked about and shown them and stuff, but they never had a real sighting or contact experience. So this was my last one in December, and it was at nighttime, and it was just a solid white orb coming up, and I'm like, we're trying to do it outside, and I'm like, oh look guys, I think we got one. Look, and I shine my green laser, which I had had for a while, but never had like a direct response from the laser until now. And I shined it right at the orb to show. I said, "Look, Grandpa, you see it?" And shined it right at it. As soon as I shined it right at it, this orb expanded like 5, 6 times its size and went ooh, 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 got huge for like a few seconds, and then all of a sudden went back down, and then just floated away. And this is what always happens too. Greer always proves me wrong, or whatever, proves himself right, validates himself, because a week or so later, I'm watching one of his talks or shows, whatever, and it shows footage, like green nightlight footage of this exact same thing that I saw, where it's an orb, they shine a green laser at it, it expands and then contracts. And he says, "Oh yeah, we have thousands of hours of this phenomena. It happens all the time, whatever." And then the bottom of the screen it says, "If you shine a green laser at the orb during CE5, it will expand and contract." Literally just what I saw, and it said this is a common phenomena during CE5. So just like with my kid making contact with the silver disc, the day before that happened, even though I'd been asking for weeks to see a silver disc, just to know for myself, for nostalgia, if these exist, the silver disc specifically, I wanted to know myself. The day before that happened, I was watching one of Greer's movies, whatever, and he was explaining and talking about how these UFOs, they fold into space-time, and that's how they switch and go back and forth from an orb to a craft, physical 3D craft to an orb, and they switch back and forth just like that in the speed of thought, but they do that by folding into space-time. And I thought, space-time, like that's just like a sci-fi word, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I believe that. And then the next day, I see it with my own eyes. I'm like, this motherfucker was telling the truth so many times like that. So,
Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot, and it's I haven't had contact since that last one in December. For one reason or another, I haven't tried as much. I haven't, been putting as much spiritual work as I was when I was making contact from June to December. So that's on me. But yeah, I wanted to confirm for myself if the aliens were real, if contacting them was real, because I always thought, even before I knew about UFOs when I was younger, and I would just watch History Channel and the universe and just wonder about aliens and wonder about life, I didn't think about UFOs already being here, but I just always had that feeling that they existed. And, we never, the History Channel and the universe never really talked about much. I didn't really get into ancient aliens, but yeah, I just wanted to know for myself. And until I saw it with my own eyes, I was a skeptic. You know what I'm saying? I really didn't believe in I take that back. Whenever I got into UFOs, that's when I started researching it. But before that, I was a skeptic. I didn't really believe.
Well, I think it's easy to be a skeptic, right?
It's so easy. Yeah.
Especially when you do have, the people making a mockery of it. Like, look at my family. They think I'm crazy. My friends that, never really heard me go that, down the rabbit hole with, that are now watching me, have conversations with grown men about whether we're alone in the universe or not. It doesn't look healthy, but that's what been built into us now. And we have to break that away before we can move any further into any disclosure. Because if we can't handle disclosure, it's never going to happen. With guys like Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, I maybe they have the purest of heart, but the more and more I look into it, the more and more I hate the threat narrative, because I think it also counters with that whole mutual assured destruction with nuclear weapons. We can no longer go forward with that. That can't work anymore. Shit, it might not work right now. I don't know if anyone noticed, but the largest armed conflict in Europe since World War II is happening, and you're about to back a wolf into a corner. I don't know. This whole mutually assured destructive, I won't kill you, so you don't kill me thing isn't going to work much longer because some fucking nut job isn't going to care. And we think that UFOs are going to stop this from happening. I don't know, man. I think they might just let us go down.
Well, man, dude, I love what you're talking about, just the destigmatization and your family and others just kind of looking at you differently. And I don't know, I think consistency and stuff and just being yourself, like what's been great about meeting these people like the Sue Walkers, right? Who's in conscious or telepathic contact. Bro, if she wasn't talking about extraterrestrials, she would be your grandma. I mean, I go into her house. She's the nicest, most genuine. Oh, hey, can I get you? Just thoughtful. She's a kind human being, right? Something that she's interested in and has experiences with are extraterrestrials, but that's a part of her, right? She is like, if she wasn't talking about that.
Can I stop you real quick? She doesn't like go on the circuit or try to make money, right? Not that I know of.
Somebody had done like I saw like a Reddit kind of deep dive into looking into maybe her website and the code and stuff. She's like, oh my God, if she's trying to make any money off this, she is doing a horrible job. She should be this, there's all these things that she needs to be. And so I think she's just a genuine person. And she had a great, wildlife, like 3-letter agencies, FBI and stuff, using her for like, missing persons cases, right? Like getting information, like that's what interested me with her as well. But it's like, oh dude, the fact that 3-letter agencies are using her for various things, it's like, well, they must think there's something to it or what she is saying and claiming she can do.
I mean, we know that remote viewing, they looked into that 100% and with success. With a really good success, actually. So that's why I really loved Conscious Contact, is because, it spoke to me in a different way to not just that they're not just craft that are through the sky. Like, there's something else going on. Whatever that
more
may
involved than we can tell, than we see. Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I love what I think what our films do best is like, I've showed, like advanced screeners, to like for Conscious Contact, full disclosure, showed that to my dad, right? Who has never brought up UFOs or aliens ever, right? He has no interest in it. He has really like no belief in it. I don't know, really never believed it. Dude, he watched it. He's like, you need to get this picked. He's like, I will go sell this to a distributor. He's like, he's like, I don't know. He left the viewing as like, oh, I don't know if extraterrestrials are, but I'm open to it. This was really interesting. And he's like, people need to watch this. And same deal, like there was just a couple different people, whether it was a girlfriend or brother or whatever, I showed something to, saying, hey, I know you're not really into this stuff, but would you just mind taking a look, see like, if what feedback
be my barometer.
Yep. And they're like, for example, like my brother, he's like, from In Plain Sight, what he liked was the extra temporal
that's what I was going to bring
came
up.
out of it,
the
and the time travel.
I can't even say it. Trans-temporal. I had that in my notes I was going to ask you about.
And so he brought up, he's like, I think that's interesting, and I can get behind, or I'd like to learn more about, like I can understand wanting to go back in time or forward in time, or if we get to that, right, why not go back? And so it's just neat how these different things affect these people, and how people that's why I think they're just really good films, that they give you some great stuff to think about, and you can do with the information what you want. But so far, like for example, the 3 films, we've got over 250 reviews on Amazon alone, and there's I think like 30 or 41 or 42% are 5 stars, which dude, I could cry. I have like I don't even know. I try and be more mindful of rating stuff, because I'm like, dude, that is insane. Somebody took the time after watching that to rate this documentary that Chris and I put our heart and soul into, and a lot of energy and time, and passion and love. And dude, so it's crazy the number of 5-star reviews. And just me personally, I'm like, oh dude, it takes a banger of a movie or something for me to give it like a 5-star. I mean, it just needs to be like, oh dude, I really, I just love it. There's nothing bad with it. I like typically would go 4-star probably or something. So it's just crazy that the response that we're getting from like viewers, just on Amazon alone is, and feedback, whatever messages we get. It's like, it's crazy. Awesome. We love it.
Did you, with part of Richard Doty's testimony about, Evie's testimony, did you bring that part up? Because that's something I hadn't heard before, was that they had recorded something like some sort of interview. It was mentioned earlier, but I noted it.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, I don't recall bringing that up in the interview, saying, "Hey, do you have anything like this?" Chris, I mean, you were the one editing. You can check the thing.
No,
I
he
guess I'd have to
prompted
go
it.
back and
He
look through
prompted
the
that?
footage again to see if I mentioned, but I don't recall. Yeah, no, ever. Hey, do you have any? Like, I don't know. He just started going, right? He'd start talking. He'd go for like 20 minutes or something, 25. I'd be like, hey, all right, like Richard, give him a signal. Like my cameras are getting hot. I'm gonna have to cool these puppies down, right? I got one on a gimbal, 2 on tripods. I'm a madman. It's just great. I got Sue Walker sitting there as who Richard has to look at, right? So it's like, I love it, man. I love filmmaking. But so that's how this whole thing's set up. And so we get to we got to cool it. And I just like, oh man, Richard, I love just all this stuff he said, blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah. And then I'd be like, all right, hey, we're going to go, into this. We're going to run it again. You just kind of go, if you could expand a little bit on that one thing you mentioned, and then just wherever you feel like going. Or maybe I'd give him something, but most of the time, he just went, man. These were just these people's stories, and this is what they felt like sharing.
With a straight face, this guy just says everything, and you're like, so if you were to believe Doty's testimony, you would say that the U.S. government knows much more than they lead on, much more.
I think he said
they have direct testimony from said source, right? So, because there are of people that think that maybe they haven't said anything because they don't know much. So are you of the camp of that they know a lot more than they lead on, or do you endorse Doty's testimony 100%?
Chris, you go first. Or do you not want? I'll go first if you need time to think about it.
Do I think they know more than they let on? Yes. Do I endorse Richard Doty's testimony 100%? No.
Okay.
You're skeptical.
But I'm very skeptical.
He's like me.
No. I mean, for me, it's like, I sat there with him. I interacted with him. He appears very genuine and disarming. And I'm like, well, it's his own grave. I mean, if he wants to say these things,
I doubt anyone's ever going to prove him wrong, though. If anything, I think he can only be proven right. I don't think it would even be possible to prove him wrong. Clearly.
Exactly. I don't know what his benefit is to letting,
why didn't
I don't see benefit to him just spinning these tall tales as some fantasy to just live this fanfic life or whatever. It's like, oh, dude, no, a lot of the stuff can be corroborated. So there's only one of two options, I think, really. Either this experience he's sharing now in interviews and documentaries like In Plain Sight, the intelligence community and UFOs, they're genuine experiences that he had and he saw and he heard. It's either that or he's still getting paid by the United States government to put out disinformation to people like me and to what
like me
and to you. To what end? What do they benefit by muddying the waters,
Well, he
good
doesn't
thought.
really preach the threat narrative or anything, so I don't have any suspicion of him, still, which, I don't know. Like, you can never trust anybody 100%, right? You know,
Yeah.
we're
I
wrong
mean,
all the
even
time. I'm wrong all the time, and I
witnesses'
know it. I
memory
can't trust
is
myself.
faulty.
Yeah,
So it's
so
like, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry there.
no,
Walter.
I was just listening. I think that, a percentage of the time, even like the Bible, I don't think everything could be completely factual, but I think not the Bible necessarily, but I still think that Richard Doty specifically, I don't think Mick West will ever be able to fucking debunk his ass.
Jesus. Fucking Mick
According to
West.
Yeah.
Dr. Greer's
That
website, I
guy must
believe,
be fun at parties.
I think it's Greer's website. I could be wrong. Somewhere I read allegedly there's around 400 to 600 employees in the government that have access to all this, not this information specifically, but just the UFO subject, the cover up, et cetera, et cetera. That it's a very, very small fraction of the government. So whenever something does happen, they call it the black government, military industrial complex, et cetera, et cetera. So, but whenever anything does happen, the government that we all see and that we all ask questions to, everybody, they all have plausible deniability. Even the military that they could possibly be doing these tests on, like Tic Tac and stuff, they're fooling the military too. And then we hear, the military's testimony, and they're really scared, and they're really, having these feelings. And they really saw what they saw, except they didn't see inside the craft to know if it was another soldier or a
Like
native
human made or
or what.
other made. Yeah. Okay. And that's a good point. 'Cause we have about 13 minutes left. So the point you made is, if Doty was still working with OSI to sow disinformation after especially after the Leslie Keane and article in 2017 and what happened after that. With this information, there's always a little bit of truth. I wonder what would be truth and what wouldn't be. That'd be interesting to
For
find out.
sure. Gut feeling from my experiences is like he's not a slimy individual. He just
Well, it's funny.
doesn't strike me. Could he be highly trained to be
For
that
sure.
way? Maybe.
I'm sure he is.
I've seen people be able to do lots of different things that you never thought they were capable of. So
He's
but
told
like,
us so much, though.
Yeah, but
Do you think
he
him and
seems
Lazar
very
link?
sincere.
Do you think
No.
Doty's
yeah.
testimony gives credence, a little bit more credence to, Lazar's
I do.
narrative? I mean, Lazar's been vindicated with Element 115, those hand scanner things. There's the flights, the Janet, is it Janet or Janice? I think it's Janice. The Janice flights out of Vegas. I mean, the guy, he's the reason we know what Area 51 even is.
Doty's not that famous though at all. He's nowhere near that Lazar fame that he's got. Lazar's really the whole reason
I'm
I
just
think
saying,
for all
Lazar's
of this.
been
He
pretty
created the public
vindicated.
pressure that caused. I believe he created the public pressure that caused the government to eventually start being more open. Maybe not. I mean, I think the government most likely did have it all planned, and this is really just part of the long strategic military planning. That's my personal belief, though, and that's I understand a lot of people, especially in the UFO community. What's really got me upset was when I went on Reddit the other day, how much of the UFO community doesn't just not believe or a skeptic of Greer, but how much they hate Dr. Greer, and they just dog on him so hard.
I mean, he does have a punchable face. Let's agree, right?
I think
he's
of this
definitely
guy
got a punchable fucking
because
face.
I've seen the stuff firsthand. If I had done it that whole time, and if I gave up in those 7 months that I was having no success, I would have done the same. I would have dismissed him as a fraud, et cetera, because I didn't have the contact. So of course, if you don't have the contact, you're just gonna assume that he's lying because you haven't seen that. But no, it's wild to me, and it's sad because I look at him as greater than Einstein. I look at him as greater than Columbus, Tesla, because he discovered the secret to UFO alien contact. That's just my personal opinion, though. You know what I'm saying? And I think that others will have that opinion long in the future, but not right now. Same with Doty. I think that he'll be the new Bob Lazar. Like his testimony is that explosive, and I think it's that truthful, and that's why I was so surprised. I went to this documentary not expecting anything. I'd never seen you guys' movies before, so I went to it like any UFO documentary with a low expectations. Right? I didn't even see the trailer, so I was just assuming, oh, it's just gonna be another, blah blah blah. No, I was so pleasantly surprised and happy with you guys' film. It took me away. I was like, I was not expecting it to be anything that was bombshell, and there's the whole movie, just documentary, just keeps you on your toes. Like for UFO community, for the world, that's the only one thing that I agree with Lou Elizondo is that he talked about ufology must die. I agree with that it should in a way as to where it's not just the UFO community anymore, and it's just humans, and this goes out, and that's what we're trying to do is make it more mainstream. I've always been into, not always, but I've been in the music business industry as manager and creative director and designer and stuff, and that was my main goal was to get this to the hip hop community, to the cool kids, and like Complex Con and stuff like that. And the first person I thought of was Kanye West, and ever since I made my first contact, um, I've made it my a mission to work with Kanye and to brief him on the UFO subject and CE5 subject especially. And also, I had this is something you was talking about. You don't know whether or not you've had messages from ETs before, and you don't know if they've helped you influence anything. I've had that same experience in a way, to where this whole time I was doing successful contact. Um, I kept giving them my address and they would show up, right? So one night I was trying to meditate and I meditated with Dr. Greer's meditation where he was like, by fire with Demi Lovato, and they both meditated together. And I said to the aliens, or I tried to, I feel like you guys are getting all of my messages, but I'm not receiving anything back from you. I don't know if that's my brain. I just can't, but I want to. I want to. And the second I closed my eyes, I had, which I don't know if this is my own thought. I would like to think it is my own thought, but I would also like to believe that it was them. Either way, I had the idea and vision of Dr. Greer becoming Kanye West vice president. And I made that my goal. And since then, I've got Kanye West to follow me. I talked to Dr. Greer about it. He said, have Kanye contact him. Kanye's viewed my story 26 plus times since following me, and he liked my video of Demi Lovato talking about her making contact on Instagram. So him liking my video of Demi talking about CE5 was really big, not for me, not for Kanye, but for the universe, for humans. It's a lot bigger than us, and I think this whole subject is bigger than any individual, and that's why Ty's right. We do need to set our differences aside, especially in the UFO community, and not, come together to make more of the subject and not just fight and debate about the little things that don't matter. The ETs are obviously watching us too, and probably watching us, the UFO community, more than others. So they're like, we're giving you guys all this stuff, all this great stuff, but instead, just like what Corbell did with the Bob Lazar documentary, asking the wrong questions. I think we have to figure out what the questions to ask are first, for sure, before we can ask them. But I think that's part of the process. I think that's what we're doing. And so just good job.
We go
You guys,
from a
you got
Donald
5-star
Trump
from me too.
presidency to a Kanye presidency. I don't know if we'll be able to handle it.
I think so.
I don't know.
But I'm trying to be his advisor, consultant. I'm trying to get into the White House. So I'm going to be full-fledged politician into politics. I hope so, at least. If not, I'll still
You
be
will
here.
have to change your name. They're not going to let Lil Pup Tart into office.
You never know, bro. You never know. I'm not going to be a politician myself. I'm just trying to, even if I'm the one person, even if I never meet Kanye, he's seen my stories so many times, and almost all my stories are UFO related, CE5 related. I've put a lot of stuff out there like that because I knew that he would most likely see it, and that was my target audience, him. So he's seen what I have on my page, which is all CE5 and UFOs. So, and he's liked it. So he's already been briefed on the small amount that he knows what my goal is or what my intentions are. and that it's UFOs and making contact with them. So even if that's as far as I go, I still feel like that's an accomplishment for myself. If I met with him in person and or phone call, whatever, and got to explain further, that's my real goal, and go from there, because I feel like if I can have a conversation, a 2-minute conversation, that I can explain to him, what's going on, and that, he'll be more interested in this subject than any of us. He's going to love making contact more than Stephen Greer himself, because I just know he's got that brain that's always going so fast and so much more than me. So I know how much I love it. And whenever you're making contact, it's the most stimulating activity possible. So I think everybody will love it, but
Yeah.
I'm just a fan of his personally. So that's why I thought of him.
Yeah. For the, for the people that haven't watched it yet, and for the people who are going to, be able to watch it come next week, right? No. Would it be next week or the week after?
Tuesday. Yeah. Next Tuesday, April. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
October 18th. October 18th.
Yeah.
Cool.
So for the people who are gonna be able to watch it, what would you want to say? What would one thing that you'd want to tell them be about how you view our the world and our place in the universe?
Go ahead, Chris.
I would say, and this is kind of the mantra for Dockside Media, and what we strive for is to people keep an open mind. Our goal is to try and get people to keep an open mind about these things. Because, we all live in our bubbles. And Tyler said it earlier, if you lived the same life as this guy, you would have probably different views and opinions and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But our goal is to just, not only entertain, but hopefully provide some really thought-provoking stuff and maybe reshape the world around you in a little bit. And we do try and provide that in, I think, a hopeful and positive message generally throughout our documentaries. And by the end, leave you something to think about.
Yeah. And the fact, dude, I cannot stress enough how much it meant to Chris and myself that Ty and Lil Pop-Tart, who are consuming copious amounts of documentaries and this type of UFO material and videos, and you mentioning, man, I just went in with low expectations. This will, I don't it's just not.
It could have been like
good.
any
I know how
normal
these
UFO
documentaries are. And then, and I mean, yes, and us just hearing, dude, just the way that we've together, Chris and myself, created something that you guys can watch twice in a row. And like
it's
Chris
art,
said,
bro.
give you guys some stuff to think about. It's just and that you guys consume a lot of it, and there's new information in here. And that Ty watched it twice, and Lil Pop-Tart mentioned something, that Richard Doty had said about Roswell, and he's like, wait, what? I missed that. And so it's oh man, it fills Chris in our hearts that dude, we've created something rich and meaningful and entertaining, right?
Stimulating.
It's not always
also.
easy to sit through something that's an hour and a half, an hour and 25 minutes. And so it's just, God, dude, this is it's music to our ears, and we hope others find that kind of same joy and reflection and willingness to man, I suggest this to other people. You should check this out. This is just it's good food for thought, man, and everybody can do with it and interpret it however they want. But I think it's just great information to have access to.
I might have to watch Conscious Contact tonight just to go back.
I'm going to. I've been planning on it since you guys been talking about it.
Yeah. And we'd love to have you back on in the future, talk about, more of the stuff you do, and hopefully, I've been pitching a project to because I also like you, Tyler. I have a passion, for making videos, and I've always wanted to do that documentary about Betty and Barney Hill, and I don't think it's been done justice yet. The story hasn't been told aside from being a clip in each, UFO documentary. When they want to talk about abductions, they bring up the Betty and Barney Hill case. I think that case deserves a whole lot of attention because there was nothing before that, and since then
to give the idea,
we've heard that abduction scenario repeated, repeated.
Spielberg
from
gave James
them.
Fox.
Yeah.
Spielberg gave James Fox
Well-
a lot of these stories, so he
Well-
couldn't think of them himself. Spielberg.
I would say to you, Ty, and this is a little harsh maybe, but the only thing stopping you from doing that is yourself right now, because
I agree.
you have the ability for sure, and if we can do it, you can do it. So
I agree.
Yeah,
Because it's
And I-
literally 45 minutes for me is where they got abducted.
yeah, I'm rooting for you.
Like-
I think you can do it.
Yeah,
But
Let me
you
ask-
definitely can. With
ask you guys.
little Pop Tart. Yo, you can speak with Kanye. I mean, all these
I hope
things
so.
we're trained to not believe they are possible. Well, dude, like let me
Exactly.
start thinking like, dude, I think it is possible. If it doesn't happen, no hard feelings. I want to keep going on with like loving life and finding passion, enjoying it. But like, bro, there's no harm to thinking something like that's possible, because bro, like that's how all those people got to those positions. That's the fact that Chris and I got here, man. Like, just I don't know if Chris really thought this was ever possible, but like back then I was still like, dude, this, and I can see it in my mind, bro. This is going to happen. We just need to keep going. And the fact we're doing this at the time, like I'm just doing filmmaking full time now, right? But Chris, I had a sales job when we first started. Chris was doing, does graphic design and freelance filmmaking, commercial work, etc. But like, dude, we were cranking out these docs, filming all this stuff while doing all these other things. It's like, it's not like we were just committing our time and resources to this. So the fact that we're able to do that, it's like, oh man, like, believe me, you would be surprised. You could find the time and the days to go log that footage and then sit down at a computer and edit it. And, you go into it however you want to. Like Chris and I'm glad, we love to hear that you guys like are so fond of the docs, because we hope, I remember very early on, I think it was like August, right, of 2021. I'm like, yo, Chris, dude, we got to stop trying to be, or no, it would have been a little after September. Like, bro, we got to stop trying to be like the next Quentin Tarantino or just whoever, Sylvester Stallone, whoever your idol is, right? I'm like, bro, we got to start thinking about like, yo, we got to be the first Tyler Transu and Chris Rupert.
Yeah,
man. And so we've been trying to harness that and not like necessarily look to other stuff so much to influence us. And I've just been going by heart, destiny, fate, wherever we're feeling that we're led. And so, dude, you can do the same thing. Like there's enough hours in the day, even with a lot of other stuff going on. I assure you.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm looking forward to your future work.
Yeah. You could even say like this whole thing, this conversation was fated, right? Because I only came across you because of someone else on Twitter. Then I looked at your page and saw you had an upcoming documentary, and I was like, shit, I'd like to review it. And then, from there. So who's to say this wasn't already planned out? Guys, thank you so much for joining. Like,
Thanks for having
us.
us.
Truly, we'd love to have you back on anytime you wanted, and especially, if you're in project with, I'd always be able to fly out, come out, do on set kind of stuff. So the sky is the limit, and I think you guys have some great talent that is only just coming to fruition, and I think you have a long journey ahead of you.
Thanks, man. It's awesome.
We're gonna keep
Appreciate
sending you
it.
docs every 2 to 3 months, man. You asked, or you put it in the universe. You said we could do it, so here we go.
All right. Thank you. Like I said, thank you. Thank them. Thank you guys, everyone, for watching. Last week we had I guess you could say most watched episode with Stephen Bassett, 6,600 downloads in 5 days. And for on the podcast side of things, that broke all my records that I had so far. So I'm looking forward to keeping this going, and the numbers are there. So I'm not going to stop anytime soon. And just remember, keep your eyes on the sky, because there's nothing for us down here, I suppose. All right.